So have you ever wondered what happened to your food after consuming them, or how the processes that are involved in the movement of your food around your body? Have you ever wondered what happens to um, simple unicellular organisms, lower organisms that reach humans? What happens to them? How do they feed? How do they consume? What modes and what form do they take in consuming their food? Or how do they manage to eat their food? What kind of food do they eat? Right? So these questions are what sets us into what we are talking about today, which is what digestive system. What is digestive system? Digestive system simply means a system that are involved in the breaking down of food. Now, in talking about digestive system, we are talking about everything that is involved in the breaking down of food in the body of an animal. So that brings us to digestion. What is digestion? Digestion simply means the breaking down of complex food material into simple and absorbable form for use by animal. Breaking down, digestion involves the breaking down of complex food material into simple and absorbable form for use by animal. The food we eat or the food we consume are complex food material. And for the food to carry out effective metabolic functions in the body of animal needs to be broken down. So the process of breaking down of this complex food material into simple and absorbable form so that it can enter into the bloodstream and carry out its function is what is known as what? Digestion. Now we can't talk about digestion without talking about alimentary tract or alimentary canal. What is alimentary tract or what is alimentary canal? Alimentary tract or alimentary canal is a pathway or a narrow tubes through which food moves within the body of an animal. So it's a pathway or a tube through which food moves in the body of an animal. This is what alimentary tract or alimentary canal is all about. So call it alimentary tract or alimentary canal, or we can call it digestive tract or digestive canal. For alimentary tract, we have two types of alimentary tracts. One, we have complete alimentary tract, and we have the incomplete alimentary tract or alimentary canal or digestive tract or digestive canal. Whichever one you decided to call it is correct. But for the purpose of biology, we'll call it digestive tract or digestive canal. So we have complete digestive canal and we have incomplete digestive canal. So what is complete digestive canal? When we say an organism has or possesses a complete digestive canal, we are simply saying such an organism has two openings. Two openings, right? The two openings are responsible for ingestion of food material and ingestion of food materials. So for complete, we now say it has two openings for what? Ingestion. Ingestion. And what? Egestion. That means an organism has two orifices, two openings, and these two openings are responsible for ingestion. Ingestion simply means the intake of food material. The intake of food material. That is what ingestion simply means. So that is what it's, the simplest form of definition of ingest. To ingest something means to take something into the body of an organism. That is what ingestion simply means. Then egestion simply means the passing out of waste material or of an undigested food in the body of an animal. That simply means for any organism that exhibits a complete digestive tract or canal, such an organism has the mouth and also has the anus. The mouth is responsible for ingestion of food. It's responsible for what? Ingestion. Mouth here is used for what? Ingestion. Therefore, here the anus is responsible for what? For to ingest food out of the body of an organism. An example of animals that exhibit this are mammals, humans, the earthworms. They exhibit this complete digestive tract. Then for the incomplete digestive tract or incomplete digestive canal, right, these are organisms that has just one opening or just one canal or just one tract that is responsible for intake of food and also responsible for ingestion of food. That means the same orifice or the same hole through which food enters is the same hole through which food leaves the body of such an organism. So food enters into their body, gets absorbed into their body, gets digested into their body, and the waste materials, right, that are not needed in the body also leaves the body through the what? Through the mouth. An example of organism that exhibits this are we have Hydra, and of course we have Planaria, right? Flatworm, Planaria. This is a diagram of Planaria on the board. So Planaria is an example of an organism that exhibits what? Incomplete digestive tract. So we will now talk about various organisms and their digestive system or their digestive tract. We'll start with what? Planaria. What is Planaria? Planaria is a free living organism that feeds on zooplanktons. Feeds on zooplanktons. It feeds on zooplanktons. So what are zooplanktons in biology? Zooplankton simply means small little aquatic animals or aquatic organisms. So Planaria feeds on zooplanktons, right? And also feeds on the remain of dead organisms. These are the things that Planaria feeds on. So for Planaria, it has just three major important digestive tracts. As you can see, Planaria on the board here, it has mouth, it has what again? It has pharynx, it does not have a gullet, it does not have crus, there's no stomach, it has small intestine, large intestine, which are embedded literally in the intestine together. Then it does not have a cecum, it doesn't have a rectum, it doesn't have an anus. So these are just the three major important parts that Planaria has or possesses. So for Planaria, like we said, food enters into the mouth, right, by the contraction and by the pumping action or the contraction and the relaxation of the pharynx. So the pharynx keeps expanding, relaxing, expanding and relaxing for Planaria, and food enters into what? Into the mouth. Once the food enters into the mouth, from the mouth, the food moves into the what? Into the intestines, right? Into the cells of the intestine. Then what happens? The food gets absorbed, the food gets digested, and the food eventually, waste products that are not needed in the body of an organism eventually leaves the body of Planaria through the mouth. So we can see that Planaria has what? Has just one alimentary tract or alimentary canal. It does not have two openings, just one opening. Planaria also, right, like I explained earlier, is example of Planaria is flatworm. So flatworm. So that's literally what flatworm is all about. That's what they feed on, that's how they feed, and that's how they carry out digestion. They have just one opening, and that opening is responsible for various little tiny aquatic organisms, which is what I refer to as zooplanktons. They digest them, and after digesting them, the waste materials that are not needed pass from the pharynx to the mouth and leaves the body of an organism. Remember that Planaria
mouth is located at the ventral region of the planaria, so at the middle region of the planaria, and the pharynx stands as the intermediary between the mouth and the small intestine. So the pumping action of the what of the pharynx brings about food being entering inside the planaria, and of course digestion takes place, and then its waste metabolic product leaves the body. So the second organism we'll look at for is the tapeworm. The tapeworm. We'll talk about the tapeworm. So this is earthworm here. There is a diagram of earthworm. We'll come back to earthworm later. Let's talk about the tapeworm. So digestion in tapeworm, right, is extracellular. For digestion in planaria, it's intracellular. When we say a digestion is intracellular, we are simply saying it occurs in the cell, in the alimentary tract of an organism. That means it's intra. Intra means inside. So when we say digestion takes place when we say digestion is intracellular in an organism, we are simply saying such digestion takes place in the cell of an organism, or takes place in the alimentary tract or alimentary canal of an organism, and further in the cells of such an organism. But for tapeworm, digestion is extracellular. Why? Because tapeworm does not have alimentary tract. You can see it's not here. It does not have alimentary canal. How? Why? Tapeworm is parasitic in nature. Tapeworm is a parasite of human. It looks for an host to live in. So tapeworm is parasitic in nature, and because they are parasitic in nature, they don't need an organ to aid digestion or breaking down of food. Why? Because they feed on already digested food. That's why they are located in the gut, as a result of them living in the gut of what? Of human, of an organism. So they live in the gut of an organism, and because they live there, they feed on already digested food. Food has been broken down by the action or the activity of the alimentary tract of their primary host, of their host. So they attach themselves into the body of that an organism, and the food gets absorbed. So the body of a tapeworm has what is called the scoles, and the hook and the sucker. So the hook and the sucker is what they use, is what the hook attaches to the gut of human, and the sucker sucks in already digested food. Also, through the process of diffusion, food enters into the body of tapeworm. Food enters into the body of tapeworm through the process of diffusion, and that is how tapeworm feeds. So tapeworm literally is parasitic in nature, and it is a type of parasite that is called endoparasite. Endoparasite. And when we say an organism is endoparasite, we are simply saying such an organism lives in the body of hosts and derive pleasure or derive some benefits from the host while causing harm to the host. That's why they are endoparasites. They are what? They are parasitic in nature. However, their digestive processes is not intracellular, is extracellular. I hope that is understood. That is that for tapeworm. So for tapeworm, let's do a little bit of classification. So we'll mention example of tapeworm. So for tapeworm belongs to what kingdom? Kingdom Animalia, right? Good. So then what is their phylum? Their phylum is Platyhelminthes, right? And what is their class? Their class is what? Cystoda, right? That simply means that we have their species will now be divided into two. We have the Taenia solium and we have the Taenia saginata. That is the two types of tapeworm that we have. We have the Taenia solium and we have the Taenia saginata. So you have to take note of these two types of tapeworm, the Taenia solium and the Taenia saginata. Remember I said they are animals, of course, and because they are animals, they are kingdom Animalia, and then their phylum Platyhelminthes. platyhelminthes. Then they are cystoda. So, Taenia solium is a type of tapeworm that is found in the body of pigs. So these are the type of tapeworm that humans or any animal that consume pigs get infected from. So Taenia solium is found in the body of for easier pronunciation, you can pronounce it in such a way that you understand. You can call it Taenia solium. So you remember the proper pronunciation is Taenia solium and Taenia saginata. So for Taenia solium is found in the body of pigs, and for Taenia saginata is found in the body of beefs, like cow. That's literally where it is found. So on that note, we are done with the tapeworm, and we've explained the two types of tapeworm, or two species of tapeworm that we have, which is Taenia solium and Taenia saginata. Then we'll look at this table, then we'll use this table to break down and explain further, before we move to that of human, we explain further the alimentary tract of other organisms and how they literally feed and consume. The next one we'll look out for is the earthworm. So the earthworm has literally two alimentary tracts. It has a complete alimentary tract or alimentary canal. That means it has the mouth that is responsible for ingestion of food. Then it has also the anus that is responsible for what? For ingestion of food, or for release of, undigested food material. Now, this is earthworm diagram on the board. We have the mouth, we have the pharynx, it has the esophagus, it has a crop, right? That's quite interesting. Just like birds have crops. It has crops also. It has clitellum, it has the intestine, and it has the anus. So the food they consume moves from the mouth, right, straight to the pharynx. The pharynx is like, the esophagus, the gullet, whatnot in human. So it moves from the pharynx, it's a passage. Then move to the crobs. What is the function of crobs? Should, in case you miss this in any of your examination, the crobs is responsible, it has a tiny stones that are responsible for storage. They temporarily store food. That's what the crop is meant for. It does not have a stone. It's like a crop is like a bag where food is temporarily temporarily stored in an organism. That is the function of a crop, right? For more like a stomach in human. So like a bag that is responsible for storage of food. So it has, from there, it moves down to from clitellum to the intestine, where digestion of food is properly done, is broken down completely. Then essential materials that are needed by the body of an organism will move all around the body of an organism, and the undigested food materials that are not needed by the body of such an organism will exit or will be ingested out of the body of the organism. That is that for what? For earthworm. Earthworm are also found everywhere in the environment. And the next one is cockroach. So for cockroach, we have the mouth. It also has a pharynx. It has a gullet. It has a crop, but it doesn't have a stomach. It doesn't have a stomach. It is absent. P means present. A means absent. It has a small intestine. However, it does not have a large intestine. You have the cecum, you have the rectum, and you have the what? The anus that is responsible for ingestion of food. Cockroach feeds on papers and materials, right? Materials like stationary materials at home and whatnot. So that is literally what cockroach feeds on. For fish, fish has mouth. Fish has pharynx, has like a gullet. Fish does not have a crop. It doesn't have a crop. Fish has the stomach, of course. It has small intestine. It has large intestine. It does not have a cecum. It has a rectum, and of course, it has an anus for ingestion of food. For fish, the fish has also the gills. Fish has gills. So, and their gills is divided into three, or they perform three functions. We have the gill raker, we have the gill arc, that's for fish. we have the gill raker, we have the gill arc, and we have the gill filament. This might also come out in your examination where they'll ask you, what is the function of gill raker, what's the function of gill arc, and what is the function of gill filament in fish? So for gill raker, you know, the regular rake we use at home, right? What do we use it for? We use it to what? To rake food. To rake food, to literally sieve food. So when food are entering during the digestion, the operculum opens up for intake of food materials, right? During respiration, we'll explain that better. The operculum opens up for water to flow in, and in the process of water flowing into fish, other materials enters into that fish, right? So by the time they are flowing in, the gill raker will be sieving out foods, materials that are needed by the body to enter into the body of a fish. And the ones that are not needed, we have to leave the body of that fish. Now, for the gills itself, right, we have what is called arc. The arc is responsible for anchorage. So this is like to sieve food. The arc is for anchorage. Anchorage means to give support. It gives support to the fish itself. It gives support to the gill holding the fish itself. So that is what anchorage is all about. Then we have the filament. The filament in fish, it is what is responsible for gaseous exchange. The filament in fish is responsible for gaseous exchange in fish. That is the primary function of the filament. So these are what the fish possesses that, enable them during the digestion of food in their body. So once the food moves from the mouth to their pharynx, down to the gullet, to the stomach, and small intestine, where proper breaking down of the food is being done after it has been broken down, the essential nutrients are absorbed in the body, and the undigested food materials will eventually leave the anus, through the anus rather. Then we have toads. What are the parts of the alimentary canal of these animals? The toad. Now, toad has what is called mouth. It has pharynx, it has gullet, it has crubs. It doesn't have a stomach, it has a small intestine. Large intestine is absent. They have cecum, rectum, and it does not have a cecum. It has rectum, and it has anus. So for toad also, toad has a complete digestive tract or a complete alimentary tract. That is for toad. It has a complete digestive or alimentary canal, and once food moves it moves from one region to another region in their body where proper digestion or broken down of that food is being done. So digestion in man starts from the mouth. Like we said earlier, we said that man has a complete alimentary tract, right? So that simply means that a man has mouth and a man has what? Anus. So the mouth is responsible for intake of food material. The mouth is responsible for intake of food material in a man, and the anus is responsible for ingestion of what? Of food material in an organism, right? So digestion of food starts from the mouth. So there are two types of digestion that takes place in man also. We have what is called mechanical digestion. Mechanical digestion. We also have what is called chemical digestion. Mechanical digestion deals with the breaking down of food involving a physical action, a mechanical action. That simply means it involves using the teeth to grind the food into smaller bits. That is what mechanical digestion is all about. But for chemical digestion, it deals with enzymes and chemicals, reacting with the food, mixing up with the food, and breaking down the food into simpler form, or enabling the food to properly digest. So as we proceed, we'll talk more on this and various chemicals that are involved.